Okay, we'll call this meeting to order. Time is 5:30. I'm sorry, 6:30. Thank you. And Jackie, would you like to do a roll call?
Britton Moore,
Here.
Tom Dolan, Steve Reese,
Here.
Mike Aguirre,
Here.
Ignacio Ramos, Dennis Bloomer. Would you like to give Dennis some time, or would you like to excuse?
Let's go ahead and give him an excused absence, and if he shows up, we'll just reverse that.
Okay, so I'll just note it as without objection.
Okay, first item on the agenda is minutes to approve, and we have no minutes to approve. So we can move on to the active agenda. We have a new member that we need to introduce, and Ignacio Ramos, congratulations and welcome to the Sunnyside Planning Commission. We look forward to hearing from you throughout. And anybody have any questions or anything you'd like to say?
Thank you all. Oh, that's a round of applause.
Okay, and down to item number B, Planning Commission background and training.
All right. Well, good evening, everyone. My name is Joseph Calhoun. I'm a planning supervisor at HLA Engineering and Land Surveying. Due to some recent staff turnover in the city of Sunnyside, we've been asked to help bridge the gap and fill in to keep things moving while staff positions are refilled. And so as part of that, wanted to get the planning commission reconvened. I know it's been a while since you've met, and then given the opportunity with the new commissioner, we've just developed a quick kind of background training summary for you that we can jump into. So if you go to the next slide, please. For an agenda, we're going to talk about a number of things, and the statutory authority for the planning commission, some of your roles and responsibilities. We'll talk about the Comprehensive Plan and Growth Management Act, some project level review, and then conclude with some resources. Regarding statutory authority, well, you're okay. There's a number of different places that give cities the authority to seat a planning commission, such as yourselves. The Sunnyside Municipal Code 2.50.100 has specific requirements for who can be on the planning commission. Some of the roles and rules therein, as far as like where you live. At least 4 of the members have to be within the city or the UGA, and then 3 may reside within the Sunnyside School District boundary. Some further authority is provided in RCWs 35A 63 for planning and zoning in code cities. Again, gives those councils the ability to create a planning commission and give them work to do as far as reviewing the comprehensive plan, development regulations, etc. Structurally, you have 1 meeting scheduled every month, Tuesdays at 5:30 p.m. And of course, as that is not this day, we can also hold special meetings with proper notice. Moving on to some of your roles and responsibilities. You're a recommending body. So you provide recommendations to council on amendments, modifications, and alterations to the city's comprehensive plan and development regulations. You conduct hearings and make quasi-judicial decisions or recommendations depending on the type of project. You can perform other planning functions for the city as assigned. And then in looking at some of your rules, the members may not be absent and unexcused from any 3 consecutive meetings. Next slide, please. So kind of backing up to generally speaking about planning. 1 more slide, please. Sorry, 2 more. Keeping up with the slides. For planning to be effective, and here we have an overview of your zoning map, including the city limits and urban growth area. Just for a reference point, obviously, a number of different types of zones within the city, residential, commercial, industrial. To effectively plan for the future of Sunnyside, attendance and participation is very highly encouraged. Obviously, you wouldn't be here if you weren't interested in what happens in your city. Depending on the topic at future meetings, there may be a number of documents to coming prepared to those meetings. Is very important. If you have questions or concerns about any of the documents, have those ready to discuss. Depending on the type of project, if it's a public hearing, you need to be aware of conflicts of interest and open public meetings. So, for example, if there's a project that you have a direct hand in or would compensate from, or, receive direct compensation from, you would need to recuse yourself from those proceedings and let the rest of the commissioners follow through with that process. Obviously, using staff as resources, it's a a skeleton crew right now, but hopefully that changes soon. And some folks are able to come in and really be those boots on the ground people. Obviously, we're happy to help out in any way we can. So if you have any questions on any of these topics, please feel free to reach out to me whenever those might come up. Obviously, public involvement is really important in these types of processes. Depending on the types of projects that come through and the interests therein, there might be more public comment than usual. Doesn't look like we have anyone today, but it's a pretty light agenda, so that's to be expected. And then just, keeping an open mind and listening and being respectful to your fellow commissioners. Next slide, please. So comprehensive plan, most of you are probably aware of the comprehensive plan. The Growth Management Act was passed in the early 90s, mandates that cities and counties plan to manage growth and development, addressing things like urban sprawl and quality of life. There are a number of specific elements required in the comprehensive plan, such as land use, housing, transportation, utilities, capital facilities. There's a new requirement that the legislature passed last year for a climate element. That's a project that's underway now and will be finalized by June of 2025 next year. And then we actually are just getting started on the overall periodic update for the city due in June of 2026. Both of those have funding associated with them from the Washington State Department of Commerce. And as we get further down the road in those plan reviews, there will be a lot of work for the commission to look at those goals and policies and language within those plans to make sure that what is being updated is relevant and specifically addresses the concerns of the city. Next slide, please. Some additional review on the comprehensive plan. It's a 20-year plan that establishes, different designations for the city to plan for that 20-year time horizon. Where will new residential, new commercial, new industrial go? Is there capacity to serve those potential new developments? And so it's a great tool for furthering additional development within the city. It gives people certainty that things will be happening where the plan says they will be happening. Obviously, there are opportunities to amend that, but that goes through a pretty lengthy process. So it would come back to the Planning Commission for review if there was any proposals to modify what is in the comprehensive plan. It's a great tool for both the city and development to plan for future infrastructure and future needs. Again, there's a lot of public involvement that would happen with that type of project. We want to know when these things are being updated that the best interests of the city are being met. And finally, on the comp plan, it's it's also a great tool for receiving grant money in the future. Most grant sources, state and federally, require some kind of concurrence or mention in a long-range planning document to be eligible to receive those funding when that funding becomes available. So there's a lot of kind of future planned projects that they may happen, they might not happen, but them being in the plan makes them eligible for several sources. Next slide, please. So projects that you might review. So on the screen is a good example of a preliminary long plat. This long plat of Cherry Wood Hill. So subdivisions are something that would come to you, annexations, amendments to the comp plan and development regulations, as we've been discussing, and then other planning as the city staff might identify or the council might identify for you to specifically look at. So those would come up, as they are identified. Other things like the comprehensive plan development regulations that we talked about a little bit ago, those have a more set timeline as far as when the state requires those things to be updated. Next slide. There's a number of resources available, and these are all hyperlinks, so we can send those around. But there's the short course on local planning. Those have happened locally over the years. The folks from the Department of Commerce come and hold usually about a 2-hour meeting to go over kind of a high level look at different planning components. The Municipal Research and Services Center, MRSC, that's a lot of information. They're a really good clearinghouse for seeing what other cities are doing with certain topics. One thing that I've seen a lot in my career and working with planning commissions is, if we're looking at a specific topic, it's a good exercise to see how that's being addressed in different communities. And then you, as the commission, can kind of pick and choose what you like and see how that might be relevant for Sunnyside. I have a couple links for some state law sections, the RCW, Revised Code of Washington, and the Washington Administrative Code, the WAC. Those two resources drive the bulk of the different requirements that are placed upon cities as it relates to planning. And then, of course, there's a link for your own municipal code, which has your zoning ordinance, subdivision ordinance, et cetera. So there's a lot of information out there. So much of planning is just trying to find all the information and assemble it into a readable, understandable document for both staff, commission, and the public. And so, having a good idea of where all of these different pieces of code live is a good idea as we move forward. And depending on the project, we'll be looking at modifications to some of these sections. And so that brings with it its own process. If you change one thing somewhere, you got to look elsewhere to see if it's referenced and make sure all those things are consistent with each other. That's all I've got for those slides. I know it was a lot of information really quick. I wanted to make sure that I got through it. So if you had any questions for me, please feel free to ask them.
Mike, or excuse me, Joseph, are you going to be here with us for our meetings moving forward? Mike, maybe you can answer that.
I would say, Commissioner, respectfully, in the interim, yes, until we hire economic development director. So we are working diligently and hard to get that done. Our interview process for the public and for the commissioners here will start, I believe, let me just check my calendar real quick so I don't misstate anything. So I'm pretty excited. We've got some pretty good prospects. So the week of the 26th, we'll start some oral interviews, and then we formed a committee. And so I'm anticipating that we should have somebody in place by hopefully mid-late October. So like I said, we've got some good prospects, and I think the challenging part is really finding planners right now. They're at a premium, as you know, Joseph, and this group knows. So that was a long-winded way of saying Joseph will be with us until we find somebody. But I wanted to give some context anyhow.
Thank you. Joseph, I've worked with you a couple times. He's a great resource for information. Can we get your email address so that the commissioners, if they have any questions, they can call you?
I got cards I can.
Oh, wonderful. You've got a card for us and a phone number. Thank you for being here. We appreciate your assistance. Commissioners, do you have any questions for Joseph?
I do.
Yeah.
So you mentioned, if you're involved in a project and you're gonna be, I'm assuming, making money off of that, and it has to do with city, you're on the planning commission, should you recuse yourself? So we're kind of in a interesting situation over at the museum. The city, basically, I think it was a quitclaim, temporary
I would have to check
quitclaim,
on that. So
because I am involved in putting up a building for the museum, which becomes property of the city when it's signed off on, and so I've never worked on one before like this, but you guys shot in all the property corners, and then we took over that parcel to put up a storage building for the city to put the contents of this museum in the building while it's being renovated or whatever takes place with that building. This one here.
Mhm.
And
That was a good picture.
yeah, it's a great picture. It shows all my hard work from the wrong side though.
So commissioners, the question, if that is a conflict of interest, you being on this
Yeah.
board and
Am I
working.
to recuse myself when we cover any of this?
Well, I would say, I don't think that the commission would have a role in approving or permitting anything to do with the museum. It would be more like the subdivision we see here. If there's something like that, that the commission was actually either making a decision on or a recommendation on, that would be something, if this was your plat, that you would need to recuse yourself on.
Yeah, I'm actually being paid by a small amount by the board, the museum board,
Mm.
to coordinate this little venture, and that's what I started out doing.
Yeah.
And so I didn't know if that would apply or not.
I would think that wouldn't, just speaking out loud, I would think it would be more in the regards to if a plan came before this commission that in regards to the museum that had to do with, I don't know, I'm throwing something against the wall here, Joseph, that we may be, that this commission might be involved in the process. But I don't see there being any conflict, you working on behalf of the board, which is inadvertently the city, because we own the property. As long as that's transparent and invoices are accessible and the council knows about it, I personally don't see a problem. And I mean, you're always really transparent, and so I don't see any problem with that fundamentally. So
Because there is a situation where I'm making a little bit of money for helping out on this. I just, I had the same building put up at my residence, and so I told her, I said, well, I just put one up, I can help you with this, because she was kind of lost on how the process goes.
Sure. Yeah, and as Mr. Gonzalez said, it's really a project specific thing. It's not like if you're getting money for something, you have to
Yeah.
recuse yourself for everything. It would be specifically a project that is being considered by the commission. If that project was something that was, you were the applicant or a family member was the applicant or something like that, and it could be perceived that there was a conflict of interest with you sitting on the board, making a decision, being part of the decision process, that's where it would become a conflict of interest.
Well, yeah, I'd have to keep an eye out for any of that. I didn't want to be in violation of that without even knowing it, because we control the parcel until the thing's done, and then we turn it back over to the city. And so it's not, yeah, I just see a little gray area there that I didn't want to be violating any. Because I know you can't vote on anything if you're making money off of a property.
Right. Yeah.
I have a question. Manager, Mr. Gonzalez. We have some new folks, Dennis Bloomer and Ignacio. And I know Esteban had missed the last training. Can we schedule one for this year or should we? What would be a plan for that?
I would say the sooner the better, because this body meets monthly. And thank you, first of all, everybody coming, and I really wanted to get this group started again, so. First of all, but please appreciate, how much I appreciate you guys and for volunteering your time. So I would say as soon as the next month, or if we even wanted to do a special meeting of some sort. And maybe it's more of like a workshop type thing and because Jacqueline, if we noticed it, let's say it was a training session at City Hall in the conference room. We wouldn't necessarily have to hold it here in the public if it was a true training session, even though there was a quorum of some sort. I guess we could open it to the public if they wanted to come and be trained along with us, but the likelihood is probably not too many people will show up, but so what's your thoughts on that?
It's fine. Location can be changed. We just notice it as a meeting, a training.
Right, because I don't necessarily think a training session would be of too much interest to the public as, or, Joseph is going over some of the basics and things like that, but I would say the sooner the better. The question for me would be how soon would the commission want to do it? And, the time commitment and.
I would like to recommend the middle of October.
Okay,
Well, your next meeting is September 10th, I think. September 10th is the second Tuesday at 5:30.
I'd like to recommend the middle of October so I don't miss it.
are you out of town in September? Okay,
Would you like to cancel September 10th? We have,
Oh, no, that's the regular scheduled meeting.
If we have things on the agenda, we should probably proceed. I know that we haven't had a meeting technically since April, so if there's things that we need to look through, let's keep the meeting September 10th. Unless you think we can pass on it, if there's nothing pressing.
and Chair, what I would suggest is something we've been doing at the council meetings is maybe workshop beforehand and then some regular business afterwards if it
Yeah,
stretches
go.
out the meeting. Yeah, I mean, that's something, with technology, we could definitely do that as well. So I think that would be the most logical thing, maybe workshop that session before the regular meeting and then sort of like the first half of teaching element and then the regular meeting after that. And that way you don't have to break it up into extra meetings and.
That sounds great.
I'll definitely be able to zoom in on the 9th or the
Okay.
10th of.
Yeah, the 10th. I think I'm up in Cle Elum for most of that day, but I possibly could zoom in the evening. I just have to check on that.
And if zooming in here, I'm guessing would probably be easier if we,
we also have one in the conference.
yeah. And that might be easy too, so. Is there a preference would you guys rather come to City Hall or would you rather be here?
We can do City Hall. It would be good for me because I just live.
Okay,
Away, but if it's here, I have no problem.
okay, sounds good. I'll let,
I'm good either way.
I won't be here, so
it makes it easier for me to be at City Hall, obviously, because I'm already there. So you want to say City Hall Chair and we'll call it good? Okay,
City Hall sounds great.
okay, sounds good.
Our other question is, we've typically had our meetings at 5:30 to, because our directors have lived out of town. I don't know what works best for you, city manager, but we're welcome to accommodate you.
I mean, I think 5:30 works well for me. The city closes at 5, so I mean it saves me from hanging, it's good because I get work done and I'm kind of hanging around the office, which is great, but obviously it extends my night and it probably extends everybody's night. So I would prefer 5:30 and then, we'll get out of here if it's a long meeting by 7, hopefully.
Commissioners, 5:30 is good with you?
Yes.
Okay, great. 5:30. Sounds good. Okay, next item on the agenda is public comments. Jackie, do we have anybody in our audience listening tonight?
Hey, Jay Sunny.
Okay.
Jay Sunny, do you have any public comments?
Aaron's not watching.
No, okay, so no public comments. We'll jump down to additional items from staff. Staff, do you have anything for us? Or Mr. City Manager?
No, just want to let everybody know how excited I am to work with you and each of you. So it really appreciate once again you guys being appointed to this commission and really volunteering. This to me is just such an important role. It's really the first eyes and ears on development and such an important piece of the process. So my door is always open to each of you. So again, just appreciate you guys really stepping up and being a part of the city process. And thanks to Joseph and Jacqueline for helping out and organizing this. And just really excited to be in Sunnyside and really watch positive growth here because I feel like we have some incredible stakeholders that really want to see the community grow and flourish. And I really come with an economic development lens. So I'm just so excited about just the possibilities here and each of you being a part of that.
Commissioners, do you have anything that you would like to comment on?
But do we have quite a few applicants or things that we need to get taken care of? Because we haven't had a meeting for quite some time. So does the city have anything holding that we need to get worried about?
I'll defer that to Joseph because I'm getting up to speed on a lot of different things, and I mean there's some things in the queue, but things are coming at me 1,000 miles an hour, so I know he's more in the loop on what's coming.
Yeah, so I've been plugged into the OpenGov system, and there's a handful of projects that we're working through right now. There's a few different preliminary short plats, which would be an administrative decision, so they wouldn't come to the planning commission. But there's at least one pre-application meeting for an annexation, potential annexation. So that's something that would be coming to you at some point if that moves forward. And then there is also there's a SEPA and conditional use permit, but I believe that would go to the hearing examiner rather than to the planning commission. So at least based on what has been assigned to me in the system, the annexation would be the primary current planning type of project that would be in front of you at some point in the future.
Is that like the 8 acres by Edison?
There's several that have already been in some part, various process stage. I think 3 or 4 annexations were just recently signed by the mayor and sent to the Office of Financial Management. That's the state OFM. That's kind of the last closeout once it gets through the Boundary Review Board. There's one annexation, and it could be the one you're talking about that it was just sent to the Boundary Review Board and their 45-day period to determine whether they will hold a public hearing on it or not. And I think September 4th or 5th. And so once the completion of that process is done, it'll come back to City Council for final ordinance. But I don't believe there are any aside from the pre-app one that I mentioned that are in a sufficient state to come to the planning commission just yet. Yeah.
I have question, comment. And maybe this goes to our training, but this planning commission binder full of lots of information was given to me back in 2015 from Jamie Ailing. And I don't know if any commissioners have ever received anything like this. It's kind of a guide to being a commissioner. Maybe there's something current that's more simplified. Is this something that we need to have our commissioners have something like this or can?
It would be nice. I would have to shake the trees a little bit and see if there's any more of those hanging around or maybe they're in some of our, we have public drives and Jacqueline, maybe we can do a search tomorrow and figure it out. And I'm sure there's some content hanging around City Hall. It's somewhere.
Those tons of information that, it's good to refer back to.
And one thing we could do, Chair, is if you let us borrow that book, we could photocopy it and then make copies for everybody.
Maybe Jamie has an updated version.
There could, yeah, it was 2015, so there could be something
Right,
for current. The other thing I wanted to ask about is our emails. I think I might have sent you an email on that. The last part of Trevor's and Sydney's, while they were here, still, we were using our personal emails. I think we should get back to our city emails. And, Jackie, I don't know if we still have the same IT person. Who can we contact to get us reset up?
I can do that. I can start a help desk ticket and have them contact you to reset your
Okay.
password. So
Okay.
I will do that now.
Okay.
I just reset mine, so I'm good.
Oh, okay.
good.
You're like,
Okay.
take me off the list.
Him and I had a long conversation today.
Okay.
I'm fine.
I've never been able to reset mine prior to it expiring. It's never allowed me to do that. So I've always just gone down to the city and had them do it, but
We don't have,
Same here. I've been having issues with the city email. That's why I just told them it's my personal one.
Yes, and then we just switched to Duo, so you probably haven't been shown how to sign in lately. We just switched over maybe like 2 months ago, so there's a new process.
I'm still getting on my private from you. It's a
I've-
city account, but it goes to my, I mean, I'll get it on my phone also, so I don't know why.
If it's regarding the application, I've contacted you on your private one.
Oh, that's why.
Mhm.
Okay,
so
that makes
No,
sense.
so you need an email.
I just reset my password as well, so
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm good, I
you're
think,
good.
until.
Okay. Yeah, and that's the one way we do want to communicate is through our city emails. Whenever possible, it's part of our rules and regulations. So
Yeah, it's helpful because I mean, the thing to remember too is people can request your private emails. Just because it's private doesn't mean if you're conducting city business on there, people can and do have the right to at least request it.
Mine are all from Jackie, so
Okay. Right, she'll get them going that way, so.
I don't think I have a city email yet.
Okay.
You need to help me with that then, because I haven't. All your stuff comes on my private email.
Yeah, and if any of you have any issues, feel free to reach out to myself or Jackie and we'll get you straight. And I know Dennis, our IT director, is he's out for a few days on vacation, but Jafet is around, the assistant, so we can figure something out.
the only thing I have left to say is thank you, Joseph, for being here. We appreciate your help and assistance and guidance. And Mr. City Manager, we're very happy to have you here in Sunnyside and very
Thank you.
excited for the future of Sunnyside and all the things that we can move forward with.
Yeah, excited to be here. Thank you.
I'd like to echo that because now I know two of you from HLA. I talked with Eric about the project over there and through him, I was able to get the maps we needed to actually lay that thing out and
Oh,
get
nice.
started. And it's coming right along. We'll have the building delivered tomorrow.
Nice.
Yeah, it's gonna be happening this weekend. So they're gonna work Saturday too. He said, I was like, oh, great. Great. Yeah,
If
but
you can
that's,
just get all that equipment and farm stuff gone, it'll look a lot better.
no, that's on, we don't care. It's on railroad property. That's the first thing I did was move.
We don't know how I got there.
No idea. Or that 20-yard chunk of concrete that's in the way now.
This is when we have to end this meeting, right?
It's all good. It's
Yeah.
gonna be nice addition.
No, I'm excited about it. And thanks for your efforts getting that area cleaned up and, so it's been definitely a team effort with the museum board. They've been
Sure it'll
good to
come
work
back.
with.
The idea is still there to continue down Yakima Valley Highway and
Yeah.
there's lights and all the stuff that needed to take place, and I'm sure he'll be back to talk with all of us about it, so.
I'm sure he will. So, thanks.
Commissioners, any other comments?
So my
Questions?
question will be, according to the amendments we approved with Trevor, is that gonna be in the new agenda? Remember, cause Trevor was doing updates on the municipal code and stuff, and we approved them.
Yeah, but see, that's what they're
And-
saying, is it doesn't cover the new amendments. That's what he just told me. He was talking about earlier.
So, cause I'm a little bit confused. Cause
So was that-
when Trevor was here, we did the amendments, right? Was that within that revised comprehensive plan that we just saw online? Or it's a different one that has not been updated?
This amendment package, right, that's the one we worked on, and then
Yes,
this is the one that isn't. You can see here, it says application, so I don't know that it was actually
so,
filed, but if you check with Mike Shuttleworth. Mike Shuttleworth told me on the phone 3 days ago that this was all done. He had done it, and it's, according to him, there's no updates to it needed.
Was that the 2022?
I think it was the latest one, and I said, well, I didn't even see any dates on this one, but see, this was our application that we put together. To
For
court. And he said
people to request
and I said, well, is that been, so it's been registered with Yakima County? He says it's registered with the state of Washington.
Yeah, the overall comprehensive plan update gets sent to the Department of Commerce. Yeah, I don't know what's in that document or what was recently looked at with previous staff. What I can tell you about the 2026 update process is that, so the
That's
Department of,
That's a new deadline.
that's the new deadline, correct? So
Makes sense.
and the way it's structured from a grant standpoint is that money became available July 1st, 24. And then you have 2 years to complete that update cycle. And so that's what was recently approved by
So-
the
So
council.
the meat of it's probably there with the
Right.
state, but the amendments and the updates have to be put in.
Most likely, yeah.
That's what you.
And then, subsequent to that 22 date, there's been other changes at the state level that all need to be woven in.
Yeah.
And so the Department of Commerce developed a checklist for cities to go through that said, here's the statute, here's the House bill or Senate bill or whatever it is that implemented it. And then it's up to the cities to go through, find that location within their comprehensive plan or development regulations and determine if it needs to be updated or if what's there meets the intent of the statute. So that'll be a big component of this update process, is just seeing what we have on the books now, how it jives or doesn't with what is required through the update, and then identifying the path forward to make those changes as
So
if needed.
are you a planner also? City planner?
I used to be prior to coming on at HLA. For the 7 years prior to coming to HLA, I was the planning manager at City of Yakima. I worked for a few years at YVCog as a planner, and then prior to that, the first stint of my career was also at City of Yakima.
What bonus? I mean, I thought you were a survey company.
No.
And since Gray closes the doors, who do you use now?
See, we hire people that know what they're doing, so that's a good thing.
Good find. Yeah, that's awesome. Welcome. Look forward to working with you.
so the reason I asked that, Jackie, because Trevor did a lot of the text amendments, code revision, in which I think that he kind of bring them up to date.
Mhm.
And we did the landscape, but not the climate that I could recall.
Climate wasn't
Yep.
around at that time.
wasn't.
That's brand new, yeah.
Yes. So I'm not sure if Trevor was able to update that on our system
Do you know when?
or not.
I did see one for landscaping, so let me double check on our ordinances here.
Cause he did, I remember, it was the whole thing.
Yeah.
He took months doing that.
Yeah, so if the planning commission made a formal recommendation,
Yes.
then the next step would be to take it to council to finalize. So
Yes, I think that's where we left off.
So it never got to council because obviously,
Correct.
okay.
And,
And do you guys remember the different scopes that you guys touched on, Commissioner. So it was landscaping and were there other subjects that you guys
Yes, there
tackled?
was, commercial, residential, R1 and R2 as well. And then it was quite a lot.
Yeah,
I have to go back and look at my notes.
He did, I found him to be really thorough of all the things that affect your. You can build them where you can't also, because the water table,
Yes.
that was crazy. I thought, wow, I had no idea it was so close.
He did a lot of work on it.
down
He did.
there.
yeah, one thing. One thing that's been brought to my attention as a new city manager and would like to get your guys' take on it is some downtown code, and I don't know if they need to be revisions, but you know, I've heard some feedback from people. You know, there's old signs kind of hanging around, the dead sign ordinance. That's been one that's been brought to my attention. Because there's sort of some old raggedy signs, or there's some high signs. I don't know what you'd call them technically. They've got nothing in them, but they're still there. There's some empty buildings around that building owners who perhaps live out of state are not really maintaining them. So, and these are some codes I need to look into to see, do we need to enforce them? Why they're not being enforced? Or do we need to revisit sort of almost like a cleanliness type ordinance or something that holds people accountable that aren't really managing their properties? Because I've heard that probably without exaggerating 5 times, you know, and I've been here 3 weeks, yeah, maybe close to a month. So, you know, somewhere in the middle is the truth, but you know, clearly there's issues there. And I'm not calling out our code enforcement. I know they're busy, but I think it's just prioritizing. Is there anything that you guys see in particular downtown that I should be looking out for, and you know, that would enhance downtown and you know, kind of give the perception that we are keeping on top of things?
Well, we have a business, 7th Edison, used to be a gas station for many, many, many years. And now it's just like a junkyard. And I know, I've talking to Trevor in the past. They kind of been working on it, but again, he lives out of state. And apparently he's either rented it or this gentleman's buying it, but it's terrible. It's a big eyesore.
We're at 7 and
It's-
7th and Edison, right there.
Diagonal from the post office.
Yeah,
Be Elmer's,
Used to be Johnny's gas.
Johnny's,
Johnny's, yeah.
right next to Javier, the
Elmer's
chicken.
before
Yeah.
Johnny's.
isn't that owned by Christensen?
They sold it to this gentleman now that lives out of state.
Well, part of it was there was underground tanks that were leaking into the soil.
Oh,
And so there was a lot of time and money spent on locating where the
Yeah.
leaks were, and I mean, a lot. It took a long time.
I spent some time, almost 2 years on the Downtown Improvement Group, which was a group that had been kind of handed over year after year because of no progress. The one thing we were able to get was outside street dining, which Blue Moon did take advantage of that.
There's a reason,
Street, yeah,
there's a reason for the no progress too, because I was
Yeah.
with you on that.
yeah.
And we would call the owners of record of some of the downtown buildings. And they told us to put it nicely, mind your own business.
right.
There are some business owners that claim that are of empty buildings that claim they are out of state. They actually are not. One of them actually lives in Toppenish, but they use that as an excuse that you can't get a hold of them. I don't know why. We really need a plan. And if that starts here, that's great. But for these dilapidated buildings and properties, they need to be being fined because there's no incentive for them to clean them up or make
Right.
them better or sell them. Because it's gone on too long. This is something that we've talked to council about, that we've tried to work with the Downtown Improvement Group and using the plan, the city's plan that they've used in other places like Prosser and Walla Walla. Because things aren't grandfathered in, that's where we've had trouble with signs. We were able to make a historic landmark for signs such as, like the pheasant and a few of those. I think someone has that somewhere in a warehouse right now.
They're all
Um,
sitting outside at the city lot, exposed to weather.
Okay, so
They're
that's,
outside, really?
that's not
I drove
good.
by a couple, probably a month ago. You can see those signs out there along the building.
They sold that barn on Outlook Road then, because I remember the Miss Sunnyside group was out there and then they moved all that out there.
Yeah,
I didn't know it was back at the city. Wow.
Yeah.
So
Um,
going back to the city cleanup, I know when our previous manager was here, Elizabeth and Trevor, they were very strong with that. And I know they were working with certain businesses around for them to clean up their buildings, or else they were get fined. And a lot of things were getting cleaned up and stuff
Right.
as well.
Well, yeah, that's good to hear. I mean,
Yeah.
you know, to pick up where they left off.
'Cause I know they were
Um,
working with that.
You know, obviously that narrative's in the community and one thing I did at Pasco was we had a business advisory council. It was kind of focused on downtown, but it expanded, you know, to the entire city. That's one thing I've wanted to get going again. You know, and I think the easy focus is to focus downtown first and then kind of see how it grows organically. So if there's any volunteers that want to work with me on that, I'm taking volunteers. You know, I just need to get a group of business owners together and people don't have to be business owners per se. But if they have a business somewhere in Sunnyside and it's an opportunity to show up and tell the city manager, hey, you know, this is not working, this is working, you know, this zone is not working, this code is not working. We found it to be super effective because you had real stakeholders there and, you know, people that were passionate. So would love to start that group sometime late this month or early September to get that ball rolling. And typically we met over lunchtime, a little line, we'd provide some pizza and people would come, but it was a really effective group. And then, you know, what I challenged the group to do was come up with solutions. Cause it's easy to complain, come to the council meeting, complain, but I challenged that group and they actually came up with solutions, wrote codes, became very proactive, and it was a very effective group. So I'm hoping to duplicate that here in Sunnyside and just really get the passionate people. So if you're watching this and you're a business owner or a citizen that wants to get involved, you know, please reach out to me or someone in this group and we'll get the ball rolling.
Another thing I want to add is regarding the homeless people. There's tons of homeless people coming to Sunnyside. And one of the biggest issue we were hearing in the past was that some hotels have contracts with the state or something like that to bring low income people living there, and they're causing fires. And the community, like businesses around to leave and stuff, which is causing a lot of death around. So I think that's something that the previous city manager was heavily on to try to clean up that type of mess. And I think she
I'll
was
have to
doing
look
good
into
on
that
that.
more and,
I don't
you know,
know
the
who-
context for that. And let's talk about it offline because I don't want to call out any hotels, you know, because they may dispute it. And, you know, not that I'm not trying to be transparent. I just, you know, I know how it goes. Sometimes they'll claim, oh, that's not true. So anyhow, but yeah, and I've heard some things about, you know, our homeless population and clearly I mean, I think the one of the issues that we have in Sunnyside is we don't have a place to house our homeless. So, and it's always an issue of connecting to resources and how you get the resources. And so it definitely is a challenge. I know one of the things that just came a court decision was the Grants Pass decision where you can't, well, our law enforcement can actually force homeless camps to remove themselves and move on. So that's a big decision, you know, so you don't have a Camp Hope situation like in Spokane where, you know, you get hundreds of individuals that are camping and, you know, because it becomes a life safety issue and sanitary issue. So it's a complex issue, but, you know, thanks for bringing that to my attention. Let's talk offline and then we'll figure out sort of the path where that's leading to and from.
Any other comments? No. Okay, so next on the agenda is setting the meeting date. Looks like are set for September 10th at 5:30 in this room, correct? Law and Justice? Or were we gonna do it?
I think we said City Hall
City
Chair.
Hall, I'm
Yeah.
sorry. City Hall. Okay, and in the meantime, we'll get Tom fixed up with his email, I'll get mine back online. I'll make sure that Commissioner Bloomer has his set up and everyone else is good to go. So there being no further business, come before the commission and without objection. I adjourn this meeting at 7:20. Thank you, everybody.
The shortest meeting we've ever had.